What if the tool isn't broken and neither are you? Let me describe someone. They've tried ChatGPT, they've tried Claude, maybe Gemini, they use it for emails, maybe some research, and every single time, it gives them something almost right. Close, but not quite. A little generic, a little flat, a little off. And so they quietly tell themselves one of two things. Either AI isn't as good as people say, or worse, I'm just not the type of person who's good at this. If that's you, I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because the problem isn't the AI, and it's definitely not your intelligence. The problem is something almost no one is talking about, and by the end of this video, you're going to see every AI prompt you've ever written completely differently. I've spent the last 2 years testing, breaking, and reverse engineering how language models actually respond, not in theory, but in practice. I've run hundreds of prompt experiments across different models. I've worked with teams trying to integrate AI into real workflows and watched where things fall apart. What I found was consistent across every situation. The gap between mediocre and exceptional AI output almost never came down to the model. It came down to the operator, the person doing the prompting. And the reason most people stay stuck is not a lack of tips, it's a lack of a mental model. That's what we're going to fix today. Here's something the AI industry doesn't want to admit publicly. Most people are using AI like a search engine with a personality. They type a question, they get an answer, they move on. And that's not wrong exactly, but it's the equivalent of hiring a world-class architect and asking them to hand you a pencil. The tool is capable of infinitely more, but the relationship you've built with it is keeping you small. Think about this. The same model that gives you a mediocre paragraph gives someone else a business strategy that saves them 40 hours a week. Same AI, same interface, different operator. So what's actually different? Here's the truth most AI tips videos skip completely. AI doesn't respond to questions. It responds to context, structure, and signal. When you type a vague prompt, the model doesn't fail. It complies. It fills the empty space with its best guess. And its best guess is average. Because average is the statistical mean of everything it's ever seen. You're not getting bad output because the AI is bad. You're getting average output because you gave it nothing to push against. Every vague prompt you write is costing you something. Time, quality, opportunity. You just don't see the bill until later. Now here's where it gets interesting, and maybe a little uncomfortable. Most people, when they want to get better at AI, do one of three things. They watch videos like this one, they try some prompt templates they copied from the internet, or they buy a prompt library. And then, nothing fundamentally changes. Why? Because there's a cognitive gap between knowing a prompt tip and understanding the reasoning system behind it. It's the difference between knowing that chess pieces can move in certain ways versus understanding why those moves create strategic pressure. One gives you moves, the other gives you mastery. Let me prove this to you right now. Most people have heard, be more specific in your prompts. So they go from, write me a marketing email to, write me a marketing email for my SaaS product, and they wonder why the output is still flat. Here's what actually happened. You added a detail. You didn't add signal. Specificity without signal is just longer vagueness. So what is signal, and how do you actually create it? Stay with me, because this is the part that changes everything. Language models don't think like humans. They don't have intent detection. They have pattern prediction. Every single word you type shifts the probability distribution of what comes next, which means your prompt isn't a request. It's a steering mechanism. And most people are steering with their elbows. Think about what you actually know when you ask for something. You know the audience, you know the tone you want, you know what failure looks like, you know what the output will be used for, you know what constraints exist. But you type, write me a social media post, and then you're surprised that it sounds like every other social media post in the history of the internet. You withheld every piece of context that would have made it yours. This isn't a tips problem, this is a mental model problem. And here's the uncomfortable part. The longer you stay at the tips and tricks level, the wider the gap grows between what you're producing and what the people who actually understand this system are producing. This isn't just about better output, it's about a compounding capability gap, and it widens every single day. So now you know why you're stuck. Let's talk about how to actually break out of it. Alright, this is where most videos give you a list of 10 tips. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to show you a mental architecture, a way of thinking about prompts that makes every prompt you write from this point forward fundamentally smarter. This architecture has 5 layers. Most people only ever use one. Let me walk you through all 5. Layer 1. Role architecture. Almost everyone has heard, give the AI a role. So they type, act as a marketing expert, and they think they've done the role thing. They haven't. Here's what a real role activation sounds like. Read this carefully. You are a direct response copywriter with 15 years of experience writing for skeptical, time-poor business-to-business audiences. Your writing never wastes a word. You have a strong bias towards specificity over generality, and you believe the headline's only job is to earn the first sentence. Feel the difference? The first version turns on a label. The second installs a decision-making framework. The AI now has constraints, biases, and a philosophy. It knows what it would reject, not just what it would write. That's the difference between a costume and a character. And this is just layer 1. Layer 2, context loading. Context is the most underrated variable in prompt engineering. Here's the question most people never ask before writing a prompt. What does the AI need to know that it currently doesn't to give me a genuinely excellent response? There are 3 types of context that matter. Situational context. What's the actual situation? Who is this for? What's happening around this output? Constraint context. What are the limits? Word count, format, things to avoid, platform restrictions. And intent context. What is this output supposed to accomplish? Not just what it should say, but what it should do in the world. Intent context is the one almost nobody loads, and it is the most powerful. Let me show you a live contrast. The bad prompt, write a LinkedIn post about productivity. The context-loaded version, write a LinkedIn post about productivity for an audience of mid-level managers who are secretly exhausted but publicly performing confidence. The goal is not to inspire them, it's to make them feel seen for the first time in weeks. Tone, warm, direct, a little like a colleague who's been there. Length, under 150 words, and without a call to action. The second prompt doesn't just describe the output, it describes the human on the other end. It describes the emotional shift the content should create. It describes what success looks like. That's intent context, and once you start loading it, you genuinely cannot go back. Layer 3, format engineering. Here's a subtle thing most people miss. The format you request shapes the thinking the model does before it generates anything. If you ask for a summary, the model optimizes for compression. If you ask for a strategic breakdown, it optimizes for analytical depth. If you ask for a framework, it organizes for transferability. Same underlying information, radically different cognitive mode. Stop asking for answers, start asking for structures. Watch this in action. If someone asks, what should I do about low engagement on my content? They'll get a recommendation, a list, someone's best guess. But if they ask, give me a decision framework for diagnosing low content engagement, include the 3 most common root causes, what each one looks like in practice, what each option optimizes for, and what information would change your answer. Now, the model doesn't give you an answer, it gives you a thinking system. One gives you a recommendation, the other gives you a thinking system you can use again and again to any piece of content in any situation. Layer 4, constraint injection. This one is genuinely counterintuitive, and it's probably the biggest unlock in this entire video. Most people add constraints to limit the AI. Elite prompters add constraints to force creativity. Here's the principle. An unconstrained model defaults to the average. A constrained model is forced to find a path that doesn't exist in the middle. Watch how this works. Unconstrained prompt, give me an idea for a content series. You'll get 5 generic formats: a how-to series, a behind-the-scenes series, a tips series. Average, middle of the bell curve. Now the constrained version, give me an idea for a content series that requires 0 audience size to start, that builds compounding value over time, that a single person can produce in under 2 hours per week, and that would be immediately relevant to someone who has never heard of me. Now the model cannot give you a generic answer. The constraints eliminate the average. You've fenced off the middle ground. What's left is either something surprisingly creative or a useful failure mode that tells you why it's hard. Both are valuable. And here's where it gets really powerful. What happens when you combine constraint injection with role architecture and intent context all at once? You get something that feels almost unfair compared to what everyone else is generating. Now there's one more layer, and it's the one that turns good prompting into iterative thinking. Layer 5, feedback loop design. Here's what separates someone who's good at prompting from someone who has genuinely mastered it. They don't treat a prompt as a transaction, they treat it as the first move in a conversation. Most people send one prompt, get one response, accept it, or start over. Masterful prompters build feedback loops. Here's how. Step 1, the critique request. After you get a response, don't just rate it. Ask the model to critique its own output. Type this. Before I respond, what are the 3 weakest parts of what you just produced, and why? This activates a different processing mode. The model finds its own gaps. You didn't have to find them. It did. Step 2. Axis expansion. Ask it to stress test in one specific direction. Type, now rewrite the weakest section assuming the reader is deeply skeptical and has heard this argument before. Step 3. Inversion. This is one of the most powerful prompting moves almost nobody uses. Type, what would someone who completely disagrees with this say? Make their argument as strong as possible. Now you have the original and the steel-manned opposition. You can build from both. Here's the reframe I want you to sit with. Prompting is not a skill of asking, it's a skill of orchestrating. You're not a user typing into a box, you're a director with an extraordinarily capable actor who takes every instruction at face value, has infinite energy, and needs you to have a clear vision. The better your vision, the better your output, every single time. Let me show you how all 5 layers combine. We'll use a single scenario, writing a cold email to a potential client. Most people write this. Write me a cold email to a potential client for my consulting business. And they get something that sounds like every cold email ever written. Now watch what happens when we apply all 5 layers.
Layer 1. Role architecture. You are a B2B sales consultant who has written cold emails with over 40% reply rates. You write like a peer, not a vendor. You never start with, I hope this finds you well. You lead with the reader's problem, not your solution. Layer 2. Context loading. The audience is a head of operations at a 200-person logistics company based in the Midwest. They're likely dealing with manual reporting processes that waste hours each week. My consulting firm helps operations teams build automated dashboards. The email will be sent on a Tuesday morning. It needs to earn a reply, not a sale. Layer 3. Format engineering. Structure this as one opening line that names their specific problem, one sentence on what changes when that problem is solved, one sentence on what I do, and a single low-friction question to end. No more than 90 words total. Layer 4. Constraint injection. Do not use the words streamline, synergy, leverage, or solution. Do not mention pricing. Do not use a bulleted list. Do not include a calendar link. Layer 5. Feedback loop built in. After writing the email, identify the one line most likely to make the reader disengage and explain why. Combined, the full prompt looks like this. You are a B2B sales consultant who writes cold emails with 40% plus reply rates. You write like a peer, not a vendor. You never open with pleasantries. You lead with the reader's problem. Write a cold email for my consulting firm targeting a head of operations at a 200-person logistics company in the Midwest. They likely have manual reporting processes wasting 3 to 5 hours per week. My firm helps ops teams build automated dashboards. The goal is a reply, not a sale. Structure. One line naming their problem, one line on what life looks like when it's solved, one line on what I do, one low-friction closing question. Under 90 words. No bullet points. Avoid the words streamline, leverage, synergy, solution. No pricing. No calendar link. After the email, identify the one line most likely to cause disengagement and explain why. Same task, completely different machine. That's not a better prompt, that's a different category of thinking.
This isn't about better blog posts or faster emails. It's about who you become as a thinker when you're forced to articulate your intent, your constraints, your audience, your definition of quality every time you sit down to create something. Prompting well makes you think better. The quality of your output is bounded by the quality of your thinking before you type. Not your typing speed, not which AI you use, not which settings you have on. Your thinking. Your clarity, your willingness to slow down before you start so the AI can run for you. This is why expert prompters often spend more time on a prompt than beginners do. They're not slower, they're deliberate. So here are 3 things to do differently starting today. 1. Before you write any prompt, answer these 3 questions out loud. Who is the audience for this output? What should this output do? Not just say, but do. And what would make this output fail? Just those 3 questions before you type a single word will change your prompts immediately. 2. Use the critique loop at least once a week. After any AI output you're not fully satisfied with, before you rewrite the prompt, ask the AI what's weak about its own response. You'll be amazed what it finds. 3. Start treating your prompts like code, not conversation. Save the prompts that work, version them, iterate on them. Build a library of prompt patterns that you refine over time, because unlike the AI, your prompts have memory. They're yours, they're reusable, and they get better every time you look at them. Remember the person I described at the beginning? The one who gets output that's almost right, close but flat. a little off. Here's what I know about that person now. They're not bad at AI, they just haven't been taught how to think alongside it. There's a version of you that uses the same tool everyone else uses and produces something that makes people ask, how did you do that? That gap is closable, and now you know how. But I have to be honest with you about something. Everything we covered today, the 5 layers, the feedback loops, the constraint injection, that's the architecture. There's an entire other conversation we need to have about the advanced tactics that live inside each layer. Things like chain of thought activation, persona anchoring, semantic priming, and what I call negative space prompting, which is one of the highest leverage techniques I've ever come across, and almost nobody is talking about it. That's for a future video, but if you want to make sure you don't miss it, you know what to do. And if this shifted the way you think about AI, not just gave you tips, but actually shifted something, share it with someone who's quietly frustrated with their results. Because most people won't figure this out on their own. They'll just keep thinking they're bad at it. Now you know better.